The following content has been provided by New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And we've met again. One more time. What is this, episode 27?
Maybe 7. Something
27,
like 7.
not bad. I'm
It is
impressed that
not
we've
bad.
kept up with it.
I am shocked that we've kept up with it,
We
to
managed.
be honest. Yeah.
We've managed so far.
To squeak it in there.
Yeah.
Mostly every week.
Yeah. This is being a busy time of year, I believe.
Oh my word.
But we say this all the time, and then it
Yeah.
starts to feel silly that you're
And
still
I was
saying
gonna
it's
say,
still so
I know,
busy.
and I was gonna say, and the weather's changed, and that makes everything. But I feel like it was only a minute ago that we were like, and it's summer, and now we can't figure out
At
what
last
to wear,
it's summer, and
what
finally,
to
no.
eat.
Well, what this tells you is that it keeps going.
Yeah.
The march of time keeps going.
Lickety splickety.
We
Everything
keep having
keeps
lots of work
happening.
to do in unsurprising ways. I've been really thinking through, like, I need some systems that work better than the ones I have.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time.
You know what I need?
Everything is on the table
I
right
always
now.
feel like if only I could have like a timeout where
to
I could
figure out
to
the
figure
system.
out the systems. Like,
If
but
we
you
have
can't-
to pause this thing.
You need to be able to step out for a minute and figure out the systems without having everything
But more than that, you
fall
need,
down.
it's not so
in the
much
meantime.
yourself. You need everyone else to step out of it
Pause.
for a minute.
Freeze
Like,
frame.
could you guys
Yeah.
not need to eat or wear clothes
Right.
for just like 10 days while I sort
While
out
I figure
some-
out the best system.
Never happens, so
No,
it's never going to
it doesn't.
happen.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm having just a real conundrum about how I'm even going to get through the remainder of this day, given all the competing things that have to happen in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it usually seems like when I'm confronted with one of those days, that it's really better to not worry about it and just get through the first thing you have to get through,
Yeah.
and then go to
Just
the
start
next thing.
taking steps.
Because if I look at the big picture, then you seize up.
So
and you can't do
I
it.
have something that just occurred to me that in talking about this frantic feeling or like this, it's like sometimes I think God just levels us up. Like, okay, now I want you doing more all the time, but still calmly and without
Yeah.
being the worst person.
I do think he does turn the treadmill up. Just
Oh,
as
always. As soon
just
as
as
we're
we're
getting
getting
it.
it.
As soon as we're like, yeah, nailing
Yeah.
it. Nope, not nailing it anymore. Like, just as soon as I thought, okay, yeah.
And
we
I
can
think
handle this.
actually, if we were able to stop the treadmill,
We'd be the worst.
it would be awful.
We would be so bad.
We
I
would be
think
bad.
God's
We'd be
great
like-
kindness to the world is keeping us from having that kind
I know.
of thing.
Think how conceited we would get.
Oh, I don't want to know. I don't want to know about that. It's so much better to always be dragging behind the Lord's plans than
It's
it is
so
to be
true.
trying to make your own. So, one of the things I was going to say, I know we have a lot of listeners who are at home, cooped up, having, like maybe you're in the really little kid years, or you just don't have a lot of fellowship, or you just don't get out
Or you
very
don't
much.
have kids anymore at home, or you don't have children at all, or like it just can feel.
Yeah, but
very...
what I was going to say, it's about people with children. So
Okay.
you might be there, and that would be a different different
That'd be
thing I would
different.
bring up. What I was going to say is, though, that there was this time. Okay, so think about, like, your worst day ever, and there's a genre for me that I think of as, like, it's just really overstimulating. Typically on days like this, it's muddy outside. Probably somebody let the dog in without checking anything,
And also-
because they're not used to it.
Untidy inside.
Yeah. Untidy inside. You probably have light bulbs burned out.
Yeah.
And you might be making pasta so all the windows get steamed.
And your hair's going down your collar.
Probably that. And there's
And your contacts are foggy.
as many things as you could dislike about that moment, they're all happening to you.
Yeah, the
at that
bottoms
moment.
of your socks are really dirty.
Probably all of your kids need to be bathed. Like inescapable tingles and snotty noses and things. Just like all the things that you feel like this will take me so long to get this right.
Yeah.
And it's just miserable, and I can't.
Sure.
I don't even want to anymore. It's part of the feeling. Well, a while ago, a couple of years ago, I read an article in like the Gospel Coalition. I think I really should look it up because I have failed. I've referenced this many times. It was not the point of the article. The point of the article was somebody went to a graveyard and saw this family's gravestones, and they were really just moved by the story that you can't know, but that you can see. And it was a very sad story. It was like a husband and wife and their 8 children. But if you just looked at the dates, like the timeline of what happened in the family, it was like the baby died, the 14-year-old died, like a year later, the 4-year-old died, and then the 5-year-old. Right. It was horrifying. It was like, you don't know why. And every one of the headstones has just scripture on it. Like it's, everyone is like hope and faith. And then after all 8 children die, like one of the later ones is probably a 16-year-old or something, I mean, it was just devastating. The husband dies and the wife lived for 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Okay. 8 children and her husband, and then she was a widow for 40 years, like in a quiet place.
Wow.
And when you finally get to her headstone, you're like, praise the Lord that she finally died. Because you're thinking, what a hard 40 years that must have been. But the thing that I think of is in that worst of all possible moments that you could be having in your home with the laundry and the puke and all the problems. I'm like, if I was standing in a graveyard, like, you would give your life to go back to that worst moment. Like, that worst, most claustrophobic, put-upon moment you were having. You were like, I would give anything for that. Like, to get back there. Because you know how I would feel about it? I would love it. Like,
it's good to zoom out and look at it. And here's the thing. This is, I think, an interesting feature. You remember that sort of feeling when you were a kid? Hopefully it's not one we've had lately, but and then I'll die and then they'll be sorry. You know that one? That feeling where you're
I think you just revealed something about yourself, Becca, because I don't recall thinking
come on, yes, you
never.
You know, the sort of like running ahead. This is such a common feature of humanity.
Yeah, it is. It is
running the hypothetical scenario of your own death and everyone else bemoaning how they were not kind to you in the moment. But here's the thing.
They'll haunt them forever.
We very rarely run that same scenario the other direction.
The opposite land. How have I been doing at this?
It's really easy for us to...
it's such a good thing with gratitude, because I think, if I was in the graveyard, I wouldn't care what kind of a horrible headache I was going to have on that Tuesday afternoon.
Or whether you needed to lose some weight.
No, why would I give a rip if I was having a muffin top? I would not care. Like, I would not have worked myself up into and it's such a good thing to see, like, just with honest gratitude, how much we have every day that we ought to be so aware of. And this kind of ties in with something else that I had this moment. I've had these moments. Okay, so the mornings I have just Moses at home now while Shad is at kindergarten. Yeah. And he is, so I just have Moses who's coming in on 2 pretty soon. So it's just the 2 of us. And there's something really sweet about that, having kids on their own at different times. Like, that when we go to get Shad, and I'm always holding his little hand, and we're talking about not a lot of stuff. We talk, but the content is weak. He said, I took him to see the bears. This is a side story. Sorry. Took him to see the bears, the grizzly bears. And so at the dinner table, he was all big with the news that he had seen the bears, which is so cute because the kids have their news. And then he's like, announces, I see bears. And they were all excited with him. They saw the bears. And then I said, did you see the daddy bear? Because there was a grizzly bear that kept standing up. It was enormous, but it kept standing up on it. Yeah. And so we were saying it was the daddy bear. And he looks at me and I said, did you see the daddy bear? And he kind of gasps and looks down the table at Luke. And he says, Daddy, you a bear? And we all die laughing like, did you forget your news? What we were talking about was not about Daddy. Anyways, that was funny. So all of this was to say, when I'm spending this time with him, just kind of this one-on-one time, one of the things that keeps occurring to me is our Grandpa Jim. who's about to be 90. And he's really the patriarch of the family, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, here he is, our old grandpa and our kid's great-grandpa, who still comes to Sabbath every week and tells his stories whenever he gets you.
Yeah.
And he has something to say. And, you know, I think about Moses like that. Like, I think, here I am, I'm holding, Lord willing, the hand of grandpa, of a great-grandpa, of someone who's the head of a big family.
Yeah.
And who is, Lord willing, the real spiritual anchor of a big family. You know, like, who's the person who's been walking with the Lord for longer than we can imagine. I'm thinking, and I am the person that I know he will remember me.
Yeah.
But to the grandkids, just a faint memory, like a vague idea of who was that person that he talks about in those stories. Like that woman that we never knew or don't know what she was like.
Yeah.
But we know the fruit of this life. Well, I had just been thinking about that, and it's just what a cool thing it is that you're influencing someone.
shaping,
Someone that matters to a lot of people. And then I sat with Grandpa at Sabbath and asked him about, because his birthday's coming up, and I said, what kind of food do you like? I was asking him what kind of food he wanted, because he doesn't eat so much now, so he's kind of, you know, I was like, what kind of thing do you want? And he just got all real nostalgic all of a sudden and was telling me about food his mom made. And
cool.
And here he is.
I wasn't there last week, so I
yeah,
didn't
but
hear
it
this.
was like a real, I was not crying or anything, but I'm saying it was a real poignant moment to be talking to someone who's 90, who's telling me about the bread that his mom made. And I didn't know this. You'll be surprised as I was that she sold bread all over. She made and sold bread all over.
Wow.
And he said she made this amazing white bread that had lots of yeast in it because it had big holes in it. And he said it was huge. It was like really big. And I was like, was it in a pan? And he was like, yeah, it says like sandwich bread, but really big. And holes in it. I was like, well, what is this nonsense? And he said that one of their favorite meals, she would make navy bean soup and slice the bread really thick. So he said you'd have one slice on your plate that would like almost fill up your plate, and then she would ladle the soup on top of it.
Oh, it's like a bread bowl.
Yeah, a bread sponge for the soup.
Interesting.
Either way, this is the thing that was touching to me, was that here he is 90, still reminiscing about the way his mother loved him, you know, and did this for him. Anyways, I got a hold of Uncle. I emailed Uncle Ken because I hear he still makes the navy bean soup, so I'm trying to get the recipe for the navy bean soup, and I'm going to see if he has the bread recipe, because I was like,
wouldn't that be cool?
Because clearly we need to try to rustle that up, and if we get it in time, we'll probably try to do it for his birthday, because it seems like that would be fun.
That would be really cool.
Plus apple pie.
Perfect.
But anyways, all these things are saying that, like, even those moments that do not feel amazing, you think, what, in like, how many years? 70 years? One of your kids might be like, you know what my mom used to do? That was just the best thing. And it'll
probably be like some weird thing that they rummaged out of.
It will be.
Yeah,
it will be the thing that you never chose as your legacy.
It'll be like your children remember that you always bought Wonder Bread.
Oh, my word. They're like, I just remember my mom buying this Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Kraft,
like,
making it. Yeah. No,
anyways,
funny.
All of that, long anecdote, but it's just at the time that doesn't feel important. Like, I'm thinking, how much was she just scrambling to try to feed a big...
The thing is, I just think this is what faith means, is being grateful even when you don't necessarily see the full picture.
You're like, Lord, you'll use it.
You're able to be grateful because it's... You know, you're believing in something you don't see right this second.
And Dad pointed out, when I mentioned that to Dad, he was like, and you strategically named him Moses so that he can be the patriarch Moses. I was like, oh, it's true.
That's handy of you.
I didn't even mean to do that. Wasn't even thinking ahead that far. So, yes.
That's funny.
Anyways, big picture thing.
So, what have you been doing of late?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, one of the things that's making my life feel panicky and frenzied is that we are committed to doing, there's like a maker's market or something, so Luke's doing some pottery, because we have...
Is he really?
Well, because we have pottery that
That's
we
awesome.
need to, like, soldier forward.
That's so
but
fun.
Last year, the reason we did it was that Lena had knit a lot of stuff, so she's knit, like, some little wool hats and stuff, but she hasn't made any... Last time it was closer to Christmas, so she'd made, like, Christmas ornaments.
Okay.
So my kids all want to sell things.
Oh, that is once one person selling something.
Intensities out to wazoo with everybody. Is like, Mom, what if it's just really funny.
Yeah.
Like, I am turning into a craft manufacturing warehouse manager, and I am not, as of yet, up to the task, because there's this job of needing to make them sellable items.
Well, that's the trick.
Because
a bit of yarn.
we could stock a warehouse tomorrow with our goods.
I made a purple yarn tassel that I tied on a pen.
Everybody loves this thing I did with a Kleenex.
Yeah.
Like, they want to, how about this for 25 cents? So I'm hoping that we can get some things together in a timely manner for that.
That would be cool.
Yeah. But none of them will be things I wove, because I am not ready to part with things I wove.
I am still trying to tie my entryway. Still trying. I get like a couple more feet done every other Saturday or so. I get a little more. My goal is to have an entryway that's tiled before the snow falls.
Oh, that's a good goal.
Like, let's have a waterproof something happening in here. And
a winning goal.
And and teaching and trying to put together a menu for a fall banquet for several hundred people that I will be trying to put together next month.
We started our parish group, so we had the first soup thing, and the first soup and bread night. So Becca and I are both now doing
We're doing weekly soup and bread, but for different crowds. So I do weekly soup and bread and cookies for the freshmen. Yeah. And you do weekly soup and bread for your parish, right?
Yeah, but I use the 60-cup professional rice cooker.
Yeah, and if I had one, I would use it.
I use it as not to cook the stuff in, but I
bought that giant stock pot, and it's my favorite. It keeps it hot for a long time. I just pull it off of the stove, and I set it on a trivet on the table, and it works great.
Yep, I can see that will work fine. Shadrach is out.
He's standing outside of our...
What do you need?
Blair told me to come out and...
He's an ambassador.
Okay, I'll be in a minute. Go back in, guys. Love ya.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. Blair is home because she crouped it last night.
Oh, shoot.
Yep. Nothing like the 3 a.m. bedside call of, I can't breathe. Somebody
That's
comes
why.
in,
Okay.
like,
I meant to ask you this because I put something up on Facebook last night about the Bible challenge, and then I saw that you had commented on it, but the time was like, what were you doing at 4 a.m?
I will tell you what I was doing. Not sleeping when I should have been sleeping.
I did. I meant to ask you that. It's like, since when are you on Facebook at 4 a.m?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Not typical. That's not my normal time.
No.
But I was in.
The croup will do it.
The croup will bring you out of bed at all hours, because then they go back to bed, but you're still kind of sleeping delicately. Like, you have to keep getting up to go listen.
I have fond memories of having the croup when I was a kid.
Yeah, because Mom would read us Chatterer the Red Squirrel. Why that was reserved for crouping, I don't know, but it was.
But it's like we would sit in the bathroom with the hot shower running, and it would be super steamy and foggy in there. She was trying to clear us up, and she would read Chatterer the Red Squirrel.
That's funny.
Maybe that was just the one book that was handy at the time.
So this is a really random change of subject, but it's come up a lot lately with me, with individual different people.
Okay. And
I just thought of it because I just whilst we were recording, got a text on the same subject from someone.
All right.
So
hot off the press.
It's like so hot off the press that it just keeps coming up, and every time I'm saying it, I know this is incredibly basic, but I'm still telling you. Okay. This is about dealing with a toddler.
Okay.
And when you are the parent of a toddler, you are the parent of something that needs to be under control.
You don't say.
What I'm saying is, it's not going to work to just see what happens.
No.
Like, letting it take its course is the wrong
plan.
choice.
It is.
So there's a couple things. One thing that I have told people recently is that, like, like, it's very difficult. Like, you can't discipline a child for not liking something. And before they have any way of communicating to you,
Okay, right.
it's very, like, so they don't like having their diaper changed, but they don't have the words to say, this is not. So then they end up fussing and whining and thrashing about while you're trying to do this or whatever. And so the thing I was going to say is it's very simple, but, like, find a way to make it about obedience, not about what they like or don't like.
Yeah.
Like, just say, I want you to blow it out now. Like this. Blow it out. It's like blowing out a birthday candle. Blow it out. We're starting over. Different way, different approach. But then the other thing that I was telling Luke after talking to someone, I get the feeling that it's like Christian parents a lot of the time feel like disciplining a child, or disciplining meaning any kind of correction or discussion or like whatever. It's like they think it's like spray painting something, and they know you're supposed to do it, but then you see people doing it, but they're just blowing spray paint into the wind like 10 feet away from the thing that they meant to spray paint. Like they have no expectation of it changing color.
Yes.
Like there is no, in my mind, I have zero expectation of that lamp base becoming yellow.
Right.
I am just over here breezing yellow paint into the wind.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it's not working. Like I look everywhere and I see people, you just push the button, right? Is that what you need to do? Just push the button. And you're like, well, the main thing is that you need to be in communication with the child. Like you need to be winning in a more personal level.
Don't you think, like, there's a kind of a skill to envisioning that same sin on an adult. It's kind of like, it's like if you go out to your garden and you spy yourself a tiny skunkweed, you don't say, but it's not doing much harm now, and it's kind of cute now. It's almost a little bit decorative. Who's to say that it might not turn into a tomato plant later? Yeah. Where it's like, nope, you're going to need to know that this is sending down a taproot of power, and you've got to get it now.
Nothing is going to come from not winning this now. Like, nothing positive will come. And the thing that I have also told people, which is just a random tidbit, is mothers, do not baby talk to your children. Because I hear this, and I'm just saying that it's a funny thing, because when I'm telling Moses how I do want him to talk to me, I channel the mega calm. Yeah. Like, I want him to imitate my voice. Right. Saying, yes, mama. Like, okay, mama. Right. And not, say okay, mama. Okay, say okay, mama. Because then it's like if you're doing everything high-pitched. Yeah. And baby talk, then your baby trying to imitate you, there's not a clear difference between someone being whipped up with excitement and baby talk and someone being whipped up with fussing. Like, there is a difference, but it is far less obvious. And if they're imitating you saying, like, where they have to be in control of themselves to get it out the way that you want it to get out, it communicates much more. Yeah. Much more than the...
But can I just say, like, when the kids are little, it's really important to, like, you see the sin, and like you're saying, you have to actually deal with the actual sin. You need it to not be kind of here and there we condemn it from afar. But the kid needs to understand. Or
you just generally dislike them being difficult, which is not the same thing as being disobedient or being like there are ages, or your kids. I'm really not a restrictive parent on lots of stuff. Like, I laugh. This is really letting the secrets out here. Okay. I laugh at people. All of you listeners, I'm laughing at you now. People who buy developmental toys for their children, like manipulatives or something, just because I'm wondering, like, well, Moses is just stacking all of the toilet paper in a tower on the landing, or then getting into other, like, he's doing manipulative things 24/7, and the idea of me buying new small parts for him to manipulate, he just gets into the kitchen drawers and puts lids on things and stacks stuff. Like, I am not up to, he has a very free life in terms of what he's allowed to do and get, so it's not like, it's just, I think, on the things that you need to win on, you have to be able to win all the way. Like
But also picking, I think that's what I'm saying, is picking the things you know you need to win on is like, well, picture that on your boss. How would you like it if that lack of emotional control was in your boss or in your husband? And then you're like, you are doing the world a favor by not letting your son turn into that. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Where you like, you just you're being the public service announcement when you
Ain't nobody got time for this.
No.
Except for your mother, who was elected by God to be here now to make sure you don't put this on other people in the future.
To teach you emotional control. Yeah, or don't let him turn into a manipulator. Don't let him turn into you know, all of this stuff. Picture it on an adult. The same sin, it might be kind of cute on a 3-year-old. Picture it on an adult. But then the thing is, you've got still toddlers. I have teens. And that's a very different kind of parenting. Like, it totally is.
I feel like I'm super
different.
close to having a teenager, and I can say that it feels like the monster splits to be like still back in the
but I
almost
think
two
that oftentimes people
battle for control.
People parent backwards. Dad always said this.
It's so true.
Where when the kids are little, they cater to stuff and they let them get away with stuff because it's kind of cute, it's kind of funny,
Well,
and
and
it's
after
just
all, if
easier.
you can just barter them with a fruit
it's just
snack,
easier
then-
to buy your way out of the problem than to actually deal with it. And so the kids like grow up in that, and then suddenly they become teenagers. Suddenly the sin's not cute anymore. Suddenly they could ruin their lives. They could get pregnant. They could get someone else pregnant. They could get into drugs, whatever it is.
They can be a drunk driver now.
And
now
then the parents like clamp down, and then it turns into like you're living in boot camp, and that does not
go well.
It does not yield good fruit in parenting, because then the kid just sits there chafing until they can get out when they're 18, and then I don't have to worry about this ever again. And so you haven't, like, you were too lax when they were little, you were too strict when they were big, and
now
surprisingly it didn't work out. You know,
now it's not being such a blessing.
It's kind of like the time you tried to make an angel food cake.
Mm-hmm. I did
without separating the eggs. So she just
Mom
threw
was
all
gone,
the eggs
and
in.
I was like, "How about I make an angel food cake?" And someone let me. I don't know who.
Probably Dad. I'm
Maybe.
gonna go ahead and venture
I have
Dad.
a feeling that it might have been Mom because it was an angel food cake it was an orange flavored angel food cake, and I think she this is funny because I grew up in this would have been the 80s probably, and so I wanted to make an angel food cake, and it called for orange zest, and she bought me orange zest to make this, but it was a spice.
What?
It was a dried orange zest.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, was this
didn't know
before
you
we
could do that.
zested citrus?
Must have been. How weird.
Before we knew how to just zest one ourselves. Instead,
Weird.
we had like a dried little sprinkles of orange zest.
It never occurred to me you could dry out an orange zest,
Well,
but I guess you can.
Now you know that you could.
Guess
But
what you'll be
I
getting
went
for
to
Christmas.
Make, yeah, right. Yeah. I went to make this stuff, and I think I just must not have followed any of the rules.
I remember this. You didn't read the directions first.
I just put all the eggs in. So
Yeah.
know, with an angel food cake, something that'll really get you good results is just not separating out the whites
And
and
not
yolks.
whipping the whites.
So what it turned out to be was kind of
Cracker.
not a
Yeah,
cracker. It was
yeah.
far more the texture of like an oven omelet, but it was
but thin like a cracker. It was not lofty like an angel food
I think
cake.
it was like a oven omelet just in the bottom of a bunt pan. In the bottom of not a bunt pan, but an
But
angel
it's kind
food
of like
cake pan.
So my analogy here with parenting is it's like
the order
it's not
things
enough.
don't matter.
Yeah, the order it goes in matters, and it's not enough to just say, "Well, I put all the ingredients in. I gave them love. I gave them discipline.
With no thought
I
to the
did-
timing or execution. I put it all in.
You didn't isolate things out and work on them individually. You just kind of dumped it all in, and unshockingly,
Well,
it didn't
what I was
turn
gonna
out.
say is I say the same thing to people on with newborns is that like who cares what the book about the schedule says about the baby or what the internet think tank tells you about the baby. Look at your baby. Is your baby hungry? Then feed your baby. You know what I mean? Like communicate with the baby, not with the internet about it, or communicate with the baby, not with somebody else's plans for whatever. And I think that we can add a lot of complicating factors when you're just trying to like imitate other people's discipline ideas or imitate whatever. You're so concentrated on yourself doing something that you're not looking, and that's what I meant by like the spray painting
Yeah,
thing.
like
It's
I'm over here pushing the button.
I'm doing it just like you, and you're like, except for that you're nowhere near the item that you needed to be taking on. Like, and just when you're dealing with your kids, you should be expecting to see some change. Like you should expect what you're doing to be affecting something, a result.
And I do think, you know, again, like we have seen occasionally parents who parent their teens just like toddlers, where they still expect, like, it's sort of like I bark a command, they instantly obey. And it's sort
there
of
will
like
be no discussion.
And the thing is, of course you want your kids to obey you when they're teens, but it shouldn't look like that. I mean, my word. It's like,
have I said this on here about my horrible realization at Costco? Wasn't horrible, but it did take some adjusting.
I don't know.
Well, when my kids were little, when we had those first four so close together, it was like four really little kids. And so it was an art form working really hard to contain everyone.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then when it was Blair and it was a baby, and so she'd be in the cart, and we did this thing, 4 corners, where everyone had to hold a corner of the cart.
Yeah.
We like stayed together, and this is where you're going to be. And it was very like that. It was very the rules of this is how we're going to keep a low impact as we make it through places and we stay together. And,
we would say form up and move out. So
yeah, we do form out. We would do form up. I still tell the kids to go form up when I'm checking out of a grocery store because it gets them all out of the cloggy zone. I'm like, go form up by the ice machine, and they go stand up. Well, usually it's youngest oldest, but sometimes, and Moses loves to do that. He feels like quite the hot topic when he's formed up with the kids. But anyways, I would concentrate so much on be quiet, stay right here, don't touch anything, don't whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they are growing into full-on people now.
And nothing would be worse than 4 teenagers having to stand in a
holding your hand.
Unallowed to speak.
Oh, my word. And then all of a sudden it just hit me why I've had this experience where you've met big families and the teenagers just stand like behind their moms silently like they aren't people. Mm-hmm. Like they don't need to, you would never need to know their name or hear from them for any reason. Yeah. And I realized, you know what? It's going to be the awkward years where our kids are telling the Costco cashier jokes. It's just where we're like, what's happening now? Yeah. But I think of it, I think, well, if I took 7 of my friends, 8 if you're counting Luke, if a group of 9 adults go to Costco together, you're not low impact. No. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like people are going to not notice you as they pass you in the aisle that there were 9 adults. Exactly. So now when we go, there's a lot more like, wow, did you see this? These crackers look gross. Look over here, guys. You know, and it's like, it's loud. We're like a scene. But I think, well, this is what we are now.
Exactly.
Okay. Now we're not quiet.
So we have to quickly do a tip because both of us have to run. I have to go to an appointment. You have to pick up kids. It's all very bunchy in our life. So bunchy. So we got like 2 minutes. We're making this one shorter to make up for that runaway one last week.
Yeah. You need a little less of us in your life.
Yeah. We're going to average it out.
If we ever run out of things to talk about now, we're just going to begin at the beginning of our cookbook repertoire. And chip through it. And just go forever. And then there was one other cinnamon roll recipe I tried.
Here's what I've learned about putting an egg in the dough.
That was so good because the funny part is we could have gone on for so much longer.
We so could have. It could be like a cereal.
We're going to try to hold ourselves back on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what's a tip? You were going to talk about Bible reading because we're doing this challenge.
All right. What's a tip about reading your Bible? Why don't you go first? Didn't you have one? Or do you want me to go first?
I guess just making the decision to just fit it in. I think we've talked about this before, so it's not really a new tip. But the idea that you need to be having a real moment. And it has to be in a certain place with your coffee, and you need to have quiet, and it needs to be a special time with the Lord kind of a thing. Yeah. That's wonderful if you can fit it in, but if you can't fit it in, if you can't fit that in, it's still better to catch it in between. And it's kind of like if there was an article, for instance, on Facebook that you were trying to read, and then you got a phone call in the middle, and then you had to
cared,
run pick up the kids.
for some reason.
And
You
then
wanted to
you
get
would
it.
you would like come back to it, and maybe you'd read another couple paragraphs, and then it'd be like, oh, I got another phone call, and I have to run do the other thing, but I'll just hold it there on my phone, and I'll open it
get
and
back
look at
to
it
it.
again later. And maybe you get through the article over the course of 7 different approaches during the day. I'm trying to just treat the Bible reading like that, where it's like, oh, I still need to do
come
that,
back to this, yeah.
and I might be in the car, waiting for, like maybe I'm sitting in the parking lot and Ben ran in to grab one thing in the grocery
this is
store.
my
So I'm just
chance.
going to read on my phone here, and then, so
Yeah.
just kind of,
Cobble it together. And I
Yeah.
have to say that there's one thing about that that's actually really a side benefit. Is that aspect of meditating on it all day.
Mhm.
Is that like if you stop and you read something, but then you like come back to look at it later. And this is something I was enjoying with trying to listen on some audio, read some, doing all this, is that I would hear something on the audio and I'd go to mark it into my paper Bible at some point. But what ends up happening is throughout the day, I'm really just thinking about Scripture an awful lot more than I would have been.
or you just get a small dose here and there, and it's great.
But even getting a small dose is like different. Well, you used the example of the Facebook article. So let's just say that you saw a Facebook article that vastly peeved you, that was a lot of your friends had liked.
Sure.
And you were like, I've got to read this
How
and
dare
see
they.
how bad this situation
Right.
is. And it might be about from any direction, about vaccines or co-sleeping or breastfeeding or Trump or anything. Any of the things that people like to get whizzed up about. And you might get on Facebook, see it, start to read it, be a little bit outraged, get interrupted, go off, think about it through for a little bit longer, come back, read it again, be a little more outraged, then go off to make dinner, and then come back later, still peeved. And you've managed to meditate all day on something that is not profitable for you.
That reminds me of something I wanted to talk about on the podcast, but we don't have time.
Give us a preview,
We
so
don't
next
have time. Well, if I give a preview, will we remember it later?
Well, we did last time. Go for it.
Oh,
Preview it up.
Speaking of articles that read and peeved you, it was somebody who referenced the biblical admonition that women are supposed to be submissive wives with tidy houses. And I actually had an interesting thought about that from a historical perspective. But we can't talk about that right now because we have to go.
Come back.
We have to leave. We have to be done with this thing.
Hey, I'm basically late to pick my kids up at
she's
school.
Like gotten out of the car already.
I'm getting out.
She's
I'm getting out while the
leaving.
getting's good. What
Okay.
have you? We'll be back another time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
New St. Andrews College thanks you for listening.